Be proud of how you handled this year, sis. The silent battles you fought, the setbacks you overcame, the dark days when you had to wipe your own tears and pat yourself on the back. Celebrate that. And that was posted on Instagram by a woman CEO Gossip. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Toy Talks podcast. My name is Toy Washington. I am the host and the creator of the Toy Talks podcast and platform. This is an emergency episode. I mean, at this point, a siren will sound. I don't have siren effects right now, but what I am going to say is this was not the scheduled episode that was due to come out today on the Toy Talks podcast. However, the UK is running amok, or shall I say, our government, the leaders of the free world, are running amok. And I couldn't just, post what I had scheduled without addressing the big old Braverman that is no longer in the room. Yes, the Home Secretary has been sacked by the Prime Minister of the UK. And she will be returning to the backbenches, but we need to get into it. We need to dissect it because there are so many lessons to be learned. And I said this on Instagram today. Some of the lessons we learn about the world of work isn't just from our experiences. It's also the experiences of others. And also the government, the Conservative Party, really are the backdrop of the world of work. If you want chaos, if you want scandal, if you want confusion, if you want alleged corruption, then you would only need to look no further than the UK government. In fact, I would go as far as saying a lot of our workplaces are off the backdrop of the government. The things that we see there live on our screens or the things that are written about in newspapers are the things that often happen in the world of work. And number 10 Downing Street happens to be the head office. Rishi Sunak is the CEO, and then he has his party, his shareholders, if you like, and also he has his stakeholders. And we see things play out in the way that they do. And damn it, honey, if we were to tell our children. However, before we get into all of that, I just want to give a premise of the show. So this podcast, we're going to be talking about what's happening in the UK government. I'm going to be linking it and drawing comparisons in the world of work. And also talking about some of the learning lessons. So Suella Braverman is very interesting. She's very interesting because she is wild. She is wild, but I think we need to kind of look at it in a bit more detail, a bit more logical approach. I'm not a political person or politically driven person. I find it very uniquely interesting how we can learn from what's happening and adopt certain things or identify certain things in the world of work and in the places that we work and organisations that we work in. But also as well, I also want to be talk about Selling Sunset. If you haven't watched Selling Sunset, I don't know where you are or where you've been. I want you to get into Chelsea because Chelsea, not only is she not on code, she didn't get the code book. And I personally, I cannot stand her. However, again, the Oppenheim Group serves as what? An organisation in which people like Chelsea and others work. And the work dynamics, the politics that we see in that show is very evident of what we see in the world of work. Also as well, last week's episode, 2 weeks ago, we had an episode, it was a dilemma episode called My Manager Wants Me to Cancel my 1 week course to attend his team away day. Now, in that episode, we had 2 dilemmas, and the title of that episode was a dilemma as well. Guess what? Our young black queen, she honoured her word and she gave us the penultimate conclusion of what happened. I gave her some advice. So if you kind of want to, refresh your mind, please go ahead and listen to that episode. But yeah, she's come back. I gave her some advice. I drafted an email for her, and she has, come back and said, Toya, this is what had happened. So I'm really excited to share that with you as well. So let's get into this week's episode. I was thinking how much my life has changed. My setup, so usually I'm upstairs recording in my office space, but I know that there's a lot of noise in my office space. My daughter will be able to hear me because she still sleeps in our bedroom, and I've just decided to come downstairs. I'm in the kitchen, my kitchen's big enough, I set up everything, and then I just looked at everything and I thought, my life has changed so much. I have my laptop, I've got my mic, I've got my phone, I've got my iPad, and the iPad is connected to the baby monitor. So as I'm recording this, I'm watching my child, making sure that she's okay. I've really gone upstairs to make sure that the temperature's fine and that she's okay. And I just thought, oh my God, my life has just changed so much. There was a time I would record a podcast episode, and all I'd think about is delivering it, editing it, and uploading it. But now it's different. I really have to plan things, and I'm just so grateful that I'm even able to record this episode, and that my daughter has gone down to sleep relatively early. Well, she kind of goes down to bed between 6 and 7, and then she'll wake up for a feed at 10. That's too much information, but the point I'm trying to make is just how much my life has changed, and how we, accommodate for all our life changes. And I'm just so grateful to even sit here and be a mum, and so grateful that my daughter gets to listen one day maybe to my podcast episodes, and hopefully hopefully all the content's not relevant to her, because the world as we know it would have changed, and she would no longer have to understand strategy as a black woman. Maybe that's a pipe dream, but I'm hoping that whilst my daughter would be proud of me, that my content will become superfluous, because the world as we know it won't be as imbalanced as it is now. But that's the wishful thinking. Anyway, Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister of the UK, has today sacked his Home Secretary, Suella Braverman. Now, I don't know if there's a speech that have come out, because I haven't heard the details, and I would have loved to be a fly on the wall of that conversation that happened this morning. But it's practically insubordination. Let's just call it what it is. So for those of you who do not know, Suella Braverman is a very controversial character. I say character because I genuinely think that she is not a real person. Sometimes I feel like she's a simulation. Now, this is not her first time being Home Secretary, by the way. She was Home Secretary under the leadership of Liz Truss, who was the former Prime Minister before Rishi Sunak. And I think she was the Prime Minister for 10 days, 14 days, I don't know, but it was days rather than months. And Suella Braverman basically was forced to resign because of allegations of leaking confidential documents, like data breaches. So she was forced to resign. And then when Liz Truss resigned, pushed out, vote of no confidence, Rishi Sunak, now the new Prime Minister, decided that it would make great hiring to hire Suella Braverman back in that role. So we have to talk about that, because that to me is wild. I think the disappointing thing about Suella Braverman is a bit of a background. Is her mum is, I believe, Malaysian, and her dad is from Kenya. She's married to a Jewish man. So she really understands the nuances of what's happening currently. And the whole protest that took place this weekend, the pro-Palestinian protest march, and she basically referred to those protests, those marches, and she called them hate marches. She also, I don't understand why she would say this, but she basically said homelessness, people that, and she used the words pitch tents, they do it as a lifestyle choice. So basically homelessness is a lifestyle choice. She's also at the forefront and the spearhead of the Rwanda asylum plan migration. The Rwanda asylum scheme, as it's often referred to. And it was her attempt to control the borders. And she said that she would like nothing more than to see the first flight from the UK to Rwanda, taking basically asylum seekers away from the UK, removing the problem that they pose in her mind, that they pose, and taking them to Rwanda. These are all things that she has said. These are all things that she has used her chest confidently as a first-generation immigrant, a child of a first-generation immigrant. These are the things that she comes out with. Now, Suella has been she's always been very controversial, but this last week she has, I don't know who changed her battery pack, because she has been on a crusade, and it's a crusade to be as controversial and as offensive as possible. This weekend, the 11th of November, is Remembrance Day. It's observed on the 11th of November to recall the end of the First World War. Now, in the UK, the end of the World War. There's certain, really critical dates and that are observed and respected here in the UK. And we understand that, we know that. Being born here in the UK, this is something even in schools they remember, and there's a minute's silence to pay respect for those who sacrificed their life during the World War. And really just respecting those people who made the ultimate sacrifice of their life. Yeah, that is what the Remembrance Day is. Now, bearing in mind that the pro-Palestinian march was scheduled to take place coincidentally, so it wasn't like a deliberate attempt to cause anything. It just so happened that this was the date that the march was set to happen. And all week, Suella Braverman has not only just been controversial, but she's really, really played with the democracy that this country attempts to uphold. And she this is what she did. She demanded a meeting with the Commissioner of the Police, Mark Rowley, and basically said, justify to me why you are allowing this pro-Palestinian march to happen. Why are you doing it? Because if the police believe that they do a risk assessment and they believe that any protest is unsafe and that there's risks, and they're allowed to make an application to the Home Secretary, and the Home Secretary will review it and have a balanced view, and then can basically issue an order to say no protest, right? So effectively what Suella was doing is she was asking the Commissioner, effectively, why have you not sent me an application to end this pro-Palestinian march? Why? So he drops everything, has a meeting with her, and she basically uses this to undermine the police, because listen, we all have our views on the police, but in terms of this march or future marches, this would set a precedent, okay? The Home Secretary interfering with the democracy of this country, yeah? So the Commissioner of the Police said, they're not going to be used as a political tool, and that the police are meant to be operationally independent. And her controversial, how she referred to the pro-Palestinian march, she's used such inflammatory language that I will never, ever, ever, ever understand as to why she thinks that she has the right to. It's inflamed tensions, and that's exactly what it did this weekend. So this Remembrance Weekend, the pro-Palestinian march did happen, and there was several arrests, there was a lot of violence, racism, anti-Semitism. There was just a lot of tension that was surrounding this. So because of the backdrop, it wasn't surprising that there was violence, racism, and the police have taken to social media and requested, information on various people who participated, and basically just used it as an opportunity to be racist. I mean, that's it, by causing havoc. But the backdrop of that is how the Home Secretary used the police and the press to basically try and push her narrative, which is so dangerous. And it's so dangerous because, I'm so sorry, in my opinion, the UK is a racist country. Right, the UK is, and we have deep-rooted problems in this country. So when they're releasing reports to say there's no racism in this country, you only have to see what has happened this past weekend to know that it's so deep-rooted. The EDL, what's his name, something Robertson, of the leader of the EDL, they were out in full force. It was very much racially motivated, and at the end of the day, wherever you sit, people have a right to use their voice. And if we're going to say that democracy underpins this country, having the right to peacefully protest and peacefully march is one of those things that is intrinsic to this country's ability to exercise democracy. So personally, for me, I couldn't understand what was motivating the Home Secretary. And then I did a bit more research and found out, a bit about her background, and who she's married to, and how she rose up the ranks in politics. And then it became very clear to me why she was pushing her particular narrative. Now, everybody is entitled to their opinion, everybody's entitled to their view, but when you are in a position of authority and great influence such as the Home Secretary, You cannot be seen to be pushing your own propaganda. You can't. And inciting this aggression and this tension, and then people are saying, well, it wasn't Suella's fault. Well, it was, because what she effectively did was say, you those who are marching for the pro-Palestinian march should not march on this particular day because it's remembrance. And also, these are hate marches. So if you label a march a hate march, people are going to receive, people who do not believe in the premise of why people are marching are going to receive it as a hate march. And you're creating that tension and that aggression. But the trying to use her position to influence the commissioner of the police was, for me, a step too far. Rishi Sunak was in a very precarious situation. He hired her. And she refused to shut up. In fact, I'm sure people around her told her, or at least she has an understanding that her behaviour is unacceptable. But more controversially, there was a piece that she had written for the Times newspaper, and it was an article, and it hadn't been fully approved by Number 10. Number 10 had asked for some changes to be made. Do you think Suella made them changes? Oh, heck, she did not. She went ahead and had it published, and what it demonstrates is, if you think of Number 10 as HQ, it's the head office. Head office is basically saying to you, your HQ, headquarters are saying, you can publish this, but you need to change it. And you basically say, up yours, and you do it anyway. What you're effectively saying is, I've gone rogue. And because she has gone rogue, Rishi Sunak is basically being called to action here. If you are the leader of the Conservatives, if you are the leader of this country, you have to lead. You see, Rishi Sunak doesn't come across as an inspirational leader. And there's all different types of leaders. Not every leader has to be a Tony Blair, for example, be a showman, but you have to lead as a leader. You know, the people that work for you have to know that there are consequences and they're accountable to you. The level of disrespect that she showed her boss was as such that she was calling him to action and basically saying, do your worst. And then obviously he sacked her and replaced her with someone else, and we'll get onto that a little bit later. But the point here is, in the world of work, as a manager, as a senior manager, as a mid-level manager, and you're managing people, there's a couple of things that you have to recognize and acknowledge. A good manager hires people who make him or her look good. So I'm not going to hire somebody, personally for me, if I was a manager, because I don't like people, so I do not manage people. I don't accept management positions. You will never hear Toya, I don't like managing people. In fact, I fell into a management role a couple of contracts ago, and it worked out well because I listened to my own advice. But the point I'm making here is, if you are going to lead, you have to hire people who are actually good at their job. They have to be able to deliver, because if they don't deliver, you're going to end up doing their job for them. Or somebody else is going to carry the slack in your team, and then you're going to create tensions because you're going to expect them to carry the slack but not give them more money and not give them a promotion. But also, hiring bad makes you look bad, because it basically says you do not know how to hire, and you do not know how to inspire, and you do not know how to manage. That's what it says. And Rishi Sunak, for me, after what happened with Suella Braverman and the data breach under the leadership of Liz Truss, I still don't understand why you would then hire her for the same position again under your leadership. What makes you think that she is going to respect the position? She didn't respect it before, hence the data breach. What is it that she done to make you think that she should be rehired in the same role? So she didn't even have to work for it. So the question really for Rishi Sunak is, what was the merits as to the reason why you hired her as Home Secretary in the first place? So one could actually say she was doing what she has consistently been doing, and she just been running amok. Some of you do not know how to hire. Someone comes in, has an interview, says a few buzzwords, and you'll hire them. And the worst thing is if you understand strategy, then you must accept and understand that when you are a manager, there's going to be at least 2 people that you manage that want your job, if not all of them. But let's say 2, at least 2 people that want, this is my mentality. 2 people that want your job. Then you have a few things that you need to do, yeah? You have to always be 1 step ahead. You must be best in class at what you do. You must be a strategist, yeah? You must rule with an iron fist. And I say that because if you are not respected, the coup will happen indiscriminately. You have to make people feel uncomfortable to create a coup, yeah? And you must have an alliance. And an alliance, from a managerial perspective, you have to have die-hard loyalists. People who are so loyal to you. They're inspired by you because of respect, because of whatever, but mainly because of respect. That's how you manage. You see, when I was working in a particular organisation and I did the dumbest shit by allowing myself to introduce a friend into the organisation, and I've spoken about that many podcasts ago. This dimwit, because I can only ever refer to her as there was no intelligence in anything she was doing. What she didn't realise is the people that I was working with in my team had a lot of respect for me because I could actually do my job, number 1. Number 2, what she didn't realise is I had other contracts outside of the organisation. A girl was booked and busy. This is not my only job, okay? Number 3, my manager respected me because I respected myself. But more importantly, within the team, I had people who were loyal to me because number 1, I had trained some of them. Number 2, I just took the time to get to know them. Number 3, I led by example. So whenever there was an escalation, I didn't mind stepping in to resolve it and taking that stress and burden away. And what you're doing when you do things like that, you are allowing people to affirm trust in you. And you are allowing people to see that when the going gets tough, you'll go into the trenches with them. That's what managers do. They inspire. So when this dimwit decided to go behind my back to try to trash talk me, my team came together to come tell me. And before they told me, they went to my boss. They went to my boss to tell her. So half of the stuff that she did, I didn't even hear about it until later on down the line. They had my back in rooms I wasn't even in. So when this one was let go of, she wants to be blaming me. I had nothing to do with it, honey. I was the one getting your timesheets signed. Sometimes I was approving those timesheets that you didn't even know about. But the point here is, the person that was left in the cold was Dimwit. Dimwit was left in the cold. And the people that were loyal to me, we rode that contract till the wheels fell off. My position was untouched, unmoved. I was on a mad day rate. And I saw my contract to the end. They kept renewing me until I said, I don't want any more. That's what managers are supposed to do. You have to understand that if your team do not respect you, they will run amok. And there are different degrees, right? Sometimes they test boundaries. Suella wasn't testing a boundary. Suella was basically shitting all over the place and basically saying, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to say what I want to say. Whether we like it or not, no matter how strategic you are in the workplace, you know you can't just say what you want. You know that. I don't know what it is, yeah? And this is like my personal view. The ethnic minorities that have been in government over the last, I'd say, 2 to 5 years, the way they have gone out cold and gone out bad is wild to me. If it's not humiliation, it's public sacking. If it's not public sacking, it's insubordination and misconduct. If it's not insubordination and misconduct, it's like, come on. Like, why is it as ethnic minorities, we think that because we're rubbing shoulders with white people, white men or white women, the privileged, why is it that we lose sight of what makes us who we are? It's almost like we become forgetful about where we've come from. Listen, you can talk posh, you can go to private school, you can say your P's and Q's, you can iron your pants and you can iron your bras. At the end of the day, if you are an ethnic minority, this country will always see you as that. If there is anything that I learned on Saturday with what happened during the pro-Palestinian march, is that this country, the fabric of what makes up this country, is also racism. And if we're really going to have honest conversation about the British Empire, about colonialism, we have to deal with the fact and admit that racism is alive and kicking in this country. So to hear Suella talk the way she talks, like, her parents are immigrants. Our parents are immigrants. How can you talk about controlling the borders in such an inhumane way? And I'm not sitting here saying that we don't need tighter border control, because we do, yeah? Because what we are not going to, we're not going to pretend, yeah? We're not going to pretend like we're going to open the door and let everybody in and say, come in, because all that's going to happen is we're going to increase taxes to pay for it. Yeah, and for those of us who pay taxes, listen, when I found out a breakdown of where all my taxes go, I was having a headache and a shoulder injury for stress because I don't get access to the NHS in the amount I pay, first of all. But you're talking about human life and you're saying that you can't wait to put everyone who's come over, an asylum seeker, on a plane straight to Rwanda so that it's no longer your problem. So you remember Africa when you want to take the asylum seekers, but you don't remember Africa when it's time to remember where you came from. Like, stop this. But who do I blame? I don't blame Suella. You guys are wasting time. Suella hasn't changed. She's consistently who she is. From when Liz Truss, from even before she became anyone. When she was a backbencher, she was the same. It's just now she has a bigger platform with a louder mic. That's it. I blame Rishi Sunak. No one, listen, we did not elect you, yeah? It was default, and you was not the first choice. You was the second choice. Your party chose Liz Truss, even though that you were more than qualified to do the job. This is why I talk about racism in this country. It's the microaggression of being the second by default Rishi Sunak. That is the problem I have. And then now, Rishi Sunak should have always been Prime Minister. It should have never been Liz Truss. But this country is so deep-rooted in racism that even when it has an opportunity to choose the rightful successor, they will always default to what they prefer. That's the truth. So now, Rishi Sunak saw what happened under Liz Truss's leadership. Wouldn't you take that as a learning lesson? Wouldn't you take the learnings and say, you know what, I need to do better? Oh, not Rishi Sunak. He then rehires Suella within a matter of days back in the position that she resigned from. And then you're wondering why she is running around, running amok, trying to bring the police into disrepute because she's now questioning the ethics of the police. And she's questioning their ability to stand independently out of politics. That's what she's doing, because she is the Home Secretary. So this is like abuse of power to an extent, right? And then you allow something to be published in a national newspaper, because even though you know that the HQ have asked for iterations, I blame Rishi Sunak. She's not doing anything that she didn't show us that she was capable of doing. The difference is now she has challenged you as a leader, and you cannot stand for that, because you cannot have that be the backdrop of why everybody else will then follow suit. You're holding on to your leadership because you know what? It's a shoestring. And bearing in mind as well, we have to bear something in mind here. There is going to be an election soon. And Rishi Sunak is positioning himself. He knows he has to get rid of Suella. He knows that. But I think what Suella has shown us is there's many people in this country who support her. Yeah. If you watch one of the Sky interviews, you would have seen it. There's many people that support her, and it's actually very dangerous. Because I'm going to tell you this. In my humble opinion, Suella Braverman is drumming up support because she is going to make a play for the Tory leadership. She wants to be Prime Minister. And I believe, this is maybe I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I genuinely believe that everything she done was deliberate. As a woman as highly educated and as seemingly intelligent as Suella Braverman, she understands the consequences of her actions. She did what she did. Number one, to test Rishi Sunak's leadership, to cause further fractions within the Tories, and also to carve her position out as a contender of the Tory leadership. This is all about the elections as far as I'm concerned. It's got nothing to do with the issues at hand or the smokescreen that is Suella Braverman's behaviour. This is everything to do with the next leader of the Tories and the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. That is my humble opinion. Now, for clarity purposes, I do want to say that the sacking of Suella Braverman has brought about a mini reshuffle, if you like. And listen, Rishi Sunak doesn't have a choice. He had to get rid of her. So all the things that are at play at the moment were conversations on the weekend, okay? So Suella Braverman was the Home Secretary. She is no longer the Home Secretary. The new Home Secretary is James Cleverly. He was the Foreign Secretary. He's now the Home Secretary. Teresa Coffey was the Environment Secretary. She's no longer the Environment Secretary. And Jeremy Quinn was the Paymaster General. He is no longer the Paymaster General. So James Cleverly is now the Home Secretary. And the new Foreign Secretary is David Cameron. Now, that name may ring a bell to you. And if it does, it's because David Cameron was the former Prime Minister between 2010 and 2016. In fact, he's best known for his active participation of Brexit. Yes, you heard correctly. He's been out of politics for the last 7 years. I'd like to call it a sabbatical because clearly he has come back now in a position that is higher than what you would have expected him to come back to if he was coming back. But then if he was coming back, being the former Prime Minister, coming back being the Foreign Secretary, it's not a bad gig. And of course, Jeremy Hunt stays the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I'm going to say this. It was a very intelligent move for Rishi Sunak to bring back David Cameron as a Foreign Secretary. David Cameron is very well versed and well experienced because he was the former Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak can lean on him if he chooses to, and also he knows what he's getting with David Cameron. Do you know what I mean? And David Cameron understands the politics of politics. Rishi Sunak needs to be very careful because Suella Braverman has sown seeds of discord, and before he now wakes up one morning and finds out that he's been summoned to the Tory headquarters to sit before whoever because of a vote of no confidence, he needs to come strong. He needs to stay strong. I think his decision to do a mini reshuffle was very strong, and I think that we should just pay attention to what happens now in terms of the Tories and a lot of the decisions they make. They're not wanting to ruff any feathers with us in the UK because they need our votes. And I think it's situations and times like this and a lot of the things that have happened over the last few years that we need to remember when we're going to the polling stations to vote. Now, I can't sit here and say one party is this, one party is that, because I think the Labour Party also have their problems. Personally, Keir Starmer, as leader of the Labour Party, does not fill me with much confidence. I'm not going to lie to you. And then the question is, well, who are we supposed to vote for? I think we have to vote for who we genuinely believe is going to make a difference, make some positive changes, and actually confront a lot of the issues that remain very prevalent in our society at the moment. I think every politician have their own motivations and every party has its own drivers. And I think when it comes to politics, I'm just not the person to say this is who I'm voting for because, you know, I was born into a very Labour, I was, coming from my background, I was more in touch with Labour, I'll be honest. I remember we were going to a polling station. My dad was like, right, right, we're Labour. Is that correct, everybody? And I just looked at my dad and I was like, whoever you want me to vote for is who I'm going to vote. It wasn't until I got old enough to understand the power of that vote. And I think I made the right decisions when I was younger, guided by my dad. But I definitely think as the world has changed and evolved, this post-lockdown, COVID, everything, well, not really post-COVID, let's be honest. Everyone's just ignoring it, but it's still very prevalent. I think that we need to look at how these parties best serve us. And I think it needs to be a very selfish decision to decide who we're voting for at the polling station. But it's important that we don't have short-term memories. This country is governed on short-term memories. Thus we forget the things that have truly made us uncomfortable as citizens. Thus we forget the fact that the ability to make a difference is at the polling stations. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I genuinely think that when it comes to politics, it's such a difficult conversation to have, because there are parties that will not best serve your interest, and a lot of it depends on what side of the line you sit on. Are you working class? Are you middle class? Are you upper class? Like that, I think a lot of the parties the decision on who to vote definitely depends on where society places you in terms of class. And it's actually a sad but very true fact. I don't think this is the end of Mrs. Braverman. I think Suella is going to rear her head from the back benches. But we need to remember all these things. And one thing about history is documented. And this will be documented. Her legacy is being Home Secretary twice and being forced to resign and then being sacked. In any other place, if this was any other employee, one would be worried about who's going to give you a reference and this, that and the third. But politics doesn't operate like that. It's very crazy. Can you imagine in an organisation where you're forced to resign and then they rehire you in the same position? That is wild. Only UK politics. Okay, let's move on. I need to read this to you guys. So I literally had to pause the podcast because my daughter woke up. So I had to just go and comfort her and give her a feed. So I was scrolling through Instagram and then I saw this post and I just thought, I'm going to read this. It says, can't believe I went to college, in our case in the UK, university, for 4 years to basically just become a professional emailer. I'm not going to lie, when I read this, I was dying. But ain't that the truth? Like, I genuinely feel I went to university. So, for those of you who don't know, I did my undergrad in law. I went to law school. I did also my master's in law. Oh God, my throat. Oh, it's killing me. And I genuinely feel like one of the things I never got taught throughout the education system is how to send an email. But one thing about the world of work, the world of work is going to teach you how to communicate. Honey, you're going to grammatically understand how to use the grammar to talk. I'm a professional emailer. I actually am. I know how to put together an email to get what I want. I mean, after all, we had that dilemma 2 weeks ago. I dropped an email. Honey, when I read that email to you, you know, like your back was straight, your neck was straight. Yeah. All of us understand the power of an email. Yeah. Where you put the comma, where the full stop, what you accentuate when you put commas in certain places. Do you know the amount of time it's taken us to get to the point to understand how to use certain like the word of be a linguist to linguistically. Do you know how hard it is to get to that point? For the avoidance of doubt, in other words, so that you remember and that everybody else understands. Thank you for your consideration. In other words, I really don't give a shit, but this is what it is. My dear, we know how to write and how to talk in Queen's English. It's not even the Queen anymore, it's the King's English, isn't it? Hey, British. British. Can I just add one more thing? Born in the UK, we are British. We will never be English, and there's a difference. And the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like some people don't know the difference. You need to know the difference. Like, I'm going to leave that there. Anyway, Selling Sunset. Can I just say something? I'm on maternity leave, and I feel like there's an episode coming for y'all anyway about this whole maternity leave and how I've viewed it, how I've managed it, what I've been doing. Some of my earlier struggles during my maternity leave as well, because obviously as a black woman, I am from a space of survival. So maternity was very foreign to me. I just did not know how to handle it. Then when I got into the swing of things, I'm almost at the end of it. Can you imagine? But anyway, I've been watching the TV shows, honey. Married at First Sight UK. God damn, ain't that a show? I don't understand how the experts put these couples together, but I'm here for the mess. Basketball Wives LA. It's given. Basketball Wives Orlando is so ratchet. Not ratchet, ratchet. It's a ratchet. It's a very ratchet. What else have I been watching? Tori, what else have you been watching? I've been watching quite a few shows. The Morning Show on Apple TV, I've been enjoying that as well. I watched a film the other day called Queen Amina, and it actually holds a special place in my heart because my dad always used to call me Queen Amina, and I never understood the reason until one day I asked my dad, and my dad basically told me that Queen Amina was a warrior princess, and she was fearless, and she was strong, and she was very triumphant. So to watch that film on Netflix was very special to me, and I managed to watch it at like 5 o'clock in the morning. My daughter had woken up, wouldn't go back to sleep, but then she fell asleep and wouldn't let me put her down. So I thought, right, I've got my iPad near me and got my headphones in. I'm just gonna watch a film, and it was amazing. You know, I've literally just gone onto my Apple TV app just to see other stuff I've been watching so I can tell you. And I've got a notification and it says, subscription price increase. Apple is raising the price of this subscription from $8.99 per month to $8.99 per month from $6.99 per month. Oh my God. Obviously I have to click OK, otherwise I cannot continue. I've been watching Slow Horses. Kay got me into Slow Horses. Season 1 is tough. Season 2 is the truth, honey. I've been really, really enjoying that. Let me go to my Netflix that Kay pays for because I'm on maternity leave. Honey, listen, since the government don't want to give good maternity, Netflix, I have to get someone to pay for you. Yeah. Okay, what else are you watching? So what else are you watching? Wow. I tried to get into Beckham. I didn't enjoy it. I don't know. I just can't. I feel it's weird watching. Glamorous. I've enjoyed that. Working, What We Do All Day. I'm going to have a review coming up of that. It's actually narrated by Barack Obama. It's actually very, very good. I tried to watch We Are Black and British, and I'm going to try and get through it, to be honest. I also started watching Costco. Is It Really Worth It? And those of you who follow me on Instagram know I'm obsessed with Costco, by the way. I watched Love Is Blind as well. Oh, the recent episode. Oh, Lord. Listen, all this Love Is Blind, Married at First Sight, and me, I'm enjoying myself. Please, since people want to go on that show, let me go and watch them. Innit? My own reality. And I've also recently just finished watching Selling Sunset. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it very briefly here is Chelsea is the only black girl in the office, right? And she is as glamorous, as sensational as the rest of the ladies there in the Oppenheim group. But Chelsea is very messy. And the issue I have with Chelsea is this. She's smashing her sales targets, okay? She's selling those £10 million houses. She's making her commission. She really backs up how she professes herself to be. She backs it up. But she's very arrogant. You see, there's a difference between being confident or even overconfident and being arrogant. She's very arrogant. And she's playing a very dangerous game. And the game that she's playing is divide and rule. Bearing in mind, this is a grown woman with children. So I personally don't understand why she gets a kick out of basically making another woman who also has a young child, making her so uncomfortable about her life choices. You don't have to like that Brie, who is one of the mothers of his child. Am I saying it PC? Basically, Nick Cannon has a child with Brie. And Chelsea has let everybody know that she doesn't agree with Brie's choice of lifestyle. But she's taken it a step further. She's basically become what she has decided to do is the self-appointed voice of the office. Now, whilst when Brie started at the office, everyone was a bit wary of her, they've all come to really like her. And it drives Chelsea crazy because Chelsea now, I feel like Chelsea comes to life when she is making somebody feel like shit, really. As a black woman, I'm actually quite disappointed in her, and I'll tell you why. I feel like as black women, whether you're the only black woman in the office, whether you're the token, or whether there are other ethnic minorities in the office and you are one of, as black women, we just have to navigate different. We have to navigate different because we understand that the construct of the workplace is not set up to benefit us. That's number one. Number two, we have to work harder, even more smarter. We have to be educated to the nines to even be considered at a level in which everybody else is, okay? We understand that. We understand the macroaggressions of the workplace, but how deeply rooted in racism they are when they're levied against us. We understand all of that. But we also have to take responsibility for the way we choose to operate in spaces that we know are not safe. So if you choose to operate recklessness will follow you. If you choose to navigate smartly, you will always be one up because you're always anticipating the next move. Exhausting, very much so. But this is how the world of work operates. I don't know whether it's because they're in LA. I don't know whether the Kool-Aid there is different. But one thing is for sure, Chelsea's weave is mad. I don't understand. First of all, I don't understand. I don't understand her dress sense. I feel like she's just keeping up with everybody else. And if that's what you need to do, who am I to say anything? But the maliciousness in which she operates is very toxic. And what is going to happen is if she continues in this way, she's going to ostracize herself. Because one thing about that office is this. Even if the collective don't particularly like someone, they all have their individual voices and they are not happy for other people to speak for them. But why Chelsea has appointed herself the mouthpiece, I will never understand. Because let me tell you, when you divide and rule, you will fall. And you will fall because you do not have the support of the masses. You just have the support of those who you've blindsided to side with you. So what Chelsea decided to do is to befriend somebody and bring on someone to the show who doesn't like Brie. So she has one alliance with somebody, and that one that doesn't like Brie is trying to make a name for herself. So what has she done? She harasses Brie as well. And Brie had a meltdown in the last episode, like a complete meltdown. And I don't blame her. You've got a newborn, or she refers to her son as a newborn. He's 8 months old. If you want to refer to your 8-month-old as a newborn, that is up to you. She's a single parent raising a child and trying to be a big boss in this real estate game. And she is constantly harassed, belittled, and made to feel like she's nothing. Now, there was a very interesting storyline in the last episode of Selling Sunset where Brie understands her worth. And actually, throughout the whole season, Brie is trying to figure out who she is. And who she is a reinforced bad bee. She's stylish, she's confident, she's sassy, she's gorgeous. And you know what? She stands by her life choices, and I respect it. And she went to one of the owners of the Oppenheim group and said, listen, I've got a Rolodex of people that I'm bringing into the brokerage. And I'm not happy with the commission split. Because at the end of the day, I'm using my personal contacts. And your commission split is unfair. And they basically said to her, if you don't like it, that's your business. It's not changing for you. And she basically said, well, I may have to go elsewhere. And I respect it. Because Brie has gone on this journey of discovering who she is and what she's worth. And she's realizing my Rolodex is worth more to me than the commission you're trying to give me. And if you want me to open the door to this Rolodex, you need to increase my commission. And she's willing to walk away. How many of you know your worth enough to know when to walk away? It's something I speak about very pervasively through most of the episodes about knowing your worth and not being afraid to ask for it or ask for what you believe you deserve. I received a message from somebody recently and they asked me about remote roles. And I said, listen, remote roles are out there. They are there, yeah? It's just that they're not as readily available as they were during the pandemic and straight after the lockdowns. They're not as frequent, but they're there. Now, you've got to understand something. If you are applying for a certain role and you go to interview, you've got to remember something. They want to fill a position and you like the look of a role that you think you can fill. There's a mutual interest there. Yeah? If this role is advertised as remote and you get to interview and they're telling you it's hybrid, you've got to ask yourself, I know what my worth is. You don't even value me enough to be honest about the role that you've advertised. You can have that conversation, but you have to be also willing to walk away if you feel that the terms are not suitable, the salary is not suitable, where you're supposed to work, if you want to work from it, whatever the case is, whatever it is that you're looking for, there is a compromise. And I've got the negotiation masterclass. It's not just negotiating salary. It's also how to negotiate terms and conditions. You are at the forefront of your career. You're the architect of your career. How you choose to build your career is up to you. But how you choose to compromise your career is also your choice. When you compromise or allow an organisation to compromise who you are or what you do, you have a hand in it because you gave them the opportunity. You gave them the opportunity. I put my foot down on a few things, and one of them is being able to compromise who I am or what I do, or having to dumb myself down or sell myself short so that you feel comfortable. And I think something that Brie reiterated throughout the episode, but in the last episode, is when you know what you're worth and you're having to convince somebody of that and they don't know and they refuse to acknowledge who you are, what your worth is, you have to be fearless in your next move. Because either you're going to sit there and accept it and then you have to do it with your shoulders, or you're going to pastures new to go and get what you deserve. Both things can be right at the same time. But I'm going to say, as a black woman, we have to have self-confidence because we're in a society that tells us that we're not good enough, that we shouldn't be sure of ourselves, that we should question ourselves. And we have to have vim. You have to have confidence. You have to have the belief in who you are, and what you do. So Selling Sunset, I would encourage you all to go and watch it, not because it's just messy, but also because there's things to learn about office dynamics. And I think LA is hyper extreme because there is this whole aesthetic. I think it's a very superficial place from what I've seen. But I think the premise of the working world and the different arenas and spaces of where people work is really interesting as well, because there's so many different things at play. I think something I will say that I like about Chelsea is she's the only black woman there, but she's letting you know that she will come out the gate swinging. And I love the fact that she is unrelenting, but I hate the fact that she is now the self-appointed, she's appointed herself the mean girl, and she's put a rod on her back, and I don't think she realises it. And watching it is actually quite uncomfortable because I don't know if she understands that being a black woman and embodying that crown of being a queen also means that you have to garner some respect, and part of that is having respect for yourself. Like being this gossipy, backstabbing, two-faced, it's just not nice, and it's unattractive. Anyway, moving on. So remember I told you about the dilemma. So the young lady, she had a team away day scheduled, but she already had a 1-week course that was scheduled 2 months prior. The head of department made her feel very uncomfortable and was basically telling her that she needs to be at the team away day, which means that she would have to remove herself from the course. She couldn't afford to not be there for one day of the course because she was being examined on the entire course. And, you know, she tried to find if there was a way that she could reschedule, and it just wasn't possible. Anyway, this young black queen sent me an email to provide a conclusion. Okay. So, this is what she writes. Hi Toya, I'm going on my course. Upon further digging, I found out that 2 of my white colleagues completed the project management course uninterrupted in previous weeks. A series of slots were offered to staff to schedule training around work commitments. Whilst their training fell on a different week to the away day, naturally, there are meetings in the week that can be used as an excuse to pull staff out of training. After your response, I drafted the email in readiness. As an initial step, I spoke to the assistant director. So she makes reference to this assistant director in the original dilemma, and the assistant director also works as diversity as well within the organisation. To be honest, I was hesitant to go all guns blazing with the email and verbally express my concerns using the structure of your email, including training being scheduled 2 months prior, the head of department being aware of this and still booking the away day and then pushing me to miss a day of training to attend, my line manager being undermined when attempting to address the issue, the comparative value of training versus an away day, the lack of diversity in project management within the organisation. This bombshell shook the table. She immediately agreed to speak to the head of department. When I came into the office a couple of days later, I could tell the mood had shifted. He didn't say his usual hello and sat at a distance from me. I instead approached him with a smile and said, "Good morning," before going about my day. Toward the end of the day, he asked to have a quick chat. I promptly walked over to my line manager and asked him to join. When we finally sat down, the first words out of his mouth were, "You don't have to attend the away day. Your training was booked prior. Just don't tell colleagues you're not coming because I want a good turnout." I instantly knew this change was a direct result of him talking to the assistant director. I think he's still in disbelief I went over him. Thanks again for responding so quickly. The email structure is what I used to make my case, and the diversity bomb definitely got things moving. No L's this year. Kind regards. Winner, 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 winner. We black women are winners. Come again now. Winner, 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 winner. We black women are winners. Do you know what I love about this queen, yeah? You see the email that I drafted for her, and I actually read the email in the last episode. Remember, I was very clear to her. Take this as you will, but this is the email that I would send. Now, bearing in mind, you guys know the dynamics of your offices. You guys are in it. Listen, at the point in which you come to me, then you're ready for the big guns. That's what I am. Okay? And I gave the email. This queen boxed clever and said, I could send this email. There's nothing stopping her, but she thought, you know what? I'm going to use the structure of this to have certain conversations and get what I need. And I'm not going to lie to you. You can't sit in front of me as an organisation and say you support my education, you support this, you support that. But yet when it comes to actually showing the practical support, you're not willing to do it. Listen, most job roles have an underrepresentation of black women. You have to utilise that statistic to your advantage. That was the golden goose in this. That was the golden goose. And this queen is very smart. Because she thought, I'm going to take Toya's golden goose and I'm going to use it to my advantage. Do you know what the wildest thing is? This head of department, all he cares about is having a good turnout to his team away day. He doesn't give a shit about this queen's education and furthering her knowledge and expertise. He doesn't care. He's educated. He's in his position. He's exercising and utilizing his privilege. But our black queen wants to now progress herself. Can you see why I have a podcast episode called Your Manager Is Not the Key to Your Success? I have another episode, You Are the Architect of Your Career. You have to choose how you want to build the foundation of your career and then how you want to solidify this career of yours. Because if you leave it in the hands of these managers, they're just waiting for a good turnout. They don't want you to ever smell some of the positions that they're in. So this course was not, do you know what the wildest thing is? If it wasn't for the fact that she went above his head, he would have used his power to subjugate and oppress this girl and force her to give away this course for one team away day. Can you even compare the two? For me personally, where I come from, they call it a microaggression because I don't understand it. It's very mad and it's very wild. One thing I'm going to be very clear, and I was clear in the last episode. When you are advocating for yourself, whether you like it or not, you are going to have a target on your back. You have to choose how to strategically navigate the world of work, knowing that you're going into these organizations with a target already on your back. All you're doing is further demonstrating that the target is on your back. You have to decide. This queen could have very well just been like, all right, you know what? I'm not going on this course, I'll go on this team day. And the resentment would have built from there. But then she would have missed out on an opportunity to grow in knowledge, add to her skills structure, build on her education, because she's going to take this course and you can go anywhere you want. But what these organizations want to do, what these managers, they want to oppress you to keep you where you are. That's what they want to do. Black queens, I'm going to be very clear to you. Very, very clear. Your manager is not invested in your progression. They may act like it, but they're only as invested and in as much as it makes them look good. This head of department should know better. Do you know what the title of head of department is? This man just wants a good turnout and is willing to compromise this girl's education just to have a bum on a seat. Deep that. That is disgusting. Absolutely deplorable. So if Toya Talks doesn't exist, then what happened? No, we have to exist. Toya Talks is on a ministry. We're on a career ministry, as far as I'm concerned. Career ministry. When it comes to black women, we're on a career ministry. Because I feel like these organizations will get away with shit that they can get away with if they can. If you do not advocate for yourself, if you do not stand up and advocate for yourself, if you do not push your progression, no one else is going to do it. Do you think someone sat me down and told me how to make 6 figures? Nobody sat me down and told me how to make 6 figures. I had to be strategic. Do you know how unsafe one must feel as a black woman to know, even as a contractor, you cannot share that you're pregnant? 9 months I was pregnant. And I was remote working, or you can see me from the shoulder up. Whilst there were other women, non-black women, celebrating their pregnancy. But I already understand that the workplace is not a safe space. And I need you to understand, no matter how much you eat and have tea and crumpets with your colleagues, no matter how many Krispy Kreme donuts you share, the workplace is not a safe space for black women. It's not a safe space. It's not a safe space when we want to progress. It becomes a problem. It's not a safe space when we want a promotion. It becomes a problem. It's not a safe space when we want more money. Become a problem. I sit here before you telling you that in 2017, if I did not make the decision to be a contractor, I would have stayed in the same position and tried to work my way up. And I'm telling you, where I am now would have been very far away from me as a perm. It's literally taken me several years and several contracts to get to a point where I can sit here and say to you, I command a certain day rate. When you chat to me, you know how you're talking to me when you see my CV. I'm not the person that you call and say, can we run through your CV? One agency tried doing that with me. Since she wants to run through, I said, have you got my CV in front of you? She goes, yeah. I said, so what do you want to run through? She goes, I just want you to take me on your career journey. I said, but that's what the CV does. So what is it that's missing in the CV that you would like me to add as flesh on the bones? And she goes, well, I've got a few questions. I said, what are they? That's where I am at with my career. Come to me correct. Because I have come correct. Okay? I have worked like a dog to get where I am. And I make no regrets about it. But what we're not going to do is disrespect the thing in it. No. The same way I'm looking for a contract is the same way you're looking for a consultant. Let's talk. I don't think that contracting is for everybody. I understand that. And that's fine. But if you're going to be a perm, then you better be strategic. You better be strategic about maximizing your income and making sure that you're getting that promotion or you're being considered for certain roles. And if you don't get what you want, the grass is always greener. Always greener. Long are the days when people say, if I leave, I won't get a reference. I've spoken about this in the masterclass, the CV masterclass. No, when they can't give you a bad reference. They'll just say you worked from this day to this day. This is the role you did. This is your name. And literally, be smart. Don't go giving personal email addresses if you can avoid it. Try and give a generic mailbox. Yeah. And say that you want, when you can also say, when they ask for a reference, say that you want a copy and they should let the referee know that you're going to request a copy. Yes, some organisations, they put a caveat. We also reserve the right to share this reference with the potential employee upon request so that they know that you're going to see it. Yes, that's how we do things around here. I'm really, really, really proud of this Black Queen, and thank you so much for coming back and sharing with us the conclusion. And if anything, I know for a fact that this really goes as far as to help other people who may be in a similar position, but also about the result of actually advocating for yourself and understanding how to be strategic. This queen is very strategic. Even when the man called her in, the head of the department called her in for a quick chat, she knew to take her line manager in. Sis, follow up with an email. Everything needs an audit trail because some of these people move mad depending on what's happening in their house. They'll come from their house and be moving mad, but it's not the same madness they can move in their house. And then suddenly they forget. Suddenly they're stressed, they can't remember what they do. And then when you have an audit trail, oh, wow, okay, thank you. I am the audit queen. Thank you. Before we draw this episode to a close, I think we've got time for one last dilemma. So this dilemma is called Career Advice. Hi, Toya. I hope you are well and enjoying maternity leave. I have a situation that I don't know how to navigate and your advice would be greatly appreciated. My manager has verbally offered that I lead on a particular project. This would most likely be permanent. It would be in addition to my current role and does come with additional workload. This is a project I would love to take the lead on and it would look good on my CV. When I was offered this role, my manager didn't mention anything about any package or increase in my salary and I'm mindful it may never be offered. Do you think I should ask for an increase or something? If so, how do I go about doing this? I'm thinking I would also need to ensure my contract is changed to reflect the additional role. This episode is for you, babe, about advocating for yourself. First and foremost, I'm just going to say this. In this post-Barack Obama era, in this Beyonce's internet and Kim Kardashian's social media, we shall never take a role on additional to the one that we were hired for without fair compensation. You are not a charity, you're not a registered charity. You are definitely not a dumping ground for additional workload. Additional workload means that you trust me to deliver this. You know the expertise I bring. I'm allowing you to do this internally rather than spend the money to do an external recruitment, train and all the rest of it. In fact, you get something from me because you know the value I bring to this work. You are worth more, but she wants you on the cheap. She can't bring up to you more money. She can't. If you could get something for free, why are you going to pay? That's the truth. Sis, how you go about it is exactly how you've approached me. Now, I have a negotiation masterclass on the toytalks.com website that may be worth you having a watch about how to negotiate and the fundamentals of negotiation, the art of negotiation, and actually the research behind negotiation, like the real structure behind how you negotiate. And it's not just negotiating money, it's also change of title, things like that. Now, what I would do if you want me to talk about approach, just very high level, I would email the manager and say, I would love to take this role. I definitely can see a synergy as to why you think that my skill set suits this. However, I would like to have a conversation about amending my contract to reflect this new role. And I think it's also important that we talk about pay increase and title change and have this contractualized. So then you push the ball to her court. You push it there. And then what you're doing when you push it there is you are opening the conversation about you're opening the negotiation conversation. That's exactly what you're doing. That's what I would do. But I need you to think about what you want. So if you want more money, how much exactly are you looking for? What's the market saying in terms of this additional role, in terms of your role? Are you getting paid more than the market average? Because you should be. And then I would go and get the negotiation masterclass and then engage in a negotiation and find a win-win situation. Again, that would make sense if you listen to the negotiation masterclass. But very high level, that's how I'd open up that conversation, because it's a conversation that needs to happen. Sis, I want you to understand something. You are worthy. You are enough and you deserve. Remember those things and go and approach this and get what you want. Hopefully, I hope this all goes well for you. But I also want you to know that you're in a position of power and you're in a position of strength and you need to utilize that to get what you want. I'll leave that there. I'm going to draw this episode to a close. This was not the episode that was scheduled to go out, but I need to edit it and I need to post it out, and then hopefully we can get to regular programming. I have an episode with the co-founder of the Wedding Coordinators that needs to come out. I've got so many episodes that I've recorded that need to come out, but the way this country is going, we're just, seeing things happen in real life, honey, and then we're having to record podcasts and get it out. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. And I want to thank each and every one of you for all your love, your support, sharing the podcast, leaving your comments. I read all your comments because sometimes you guys leave comments on podcast platforms like Spotify. I love the comments on Spotify as well. I really love reading them, and on Apple. But the problem is I can't reply, but I just want you to know that I read all of them. There was one recently left on Apple Podcast. Young lady, she said, thank you. I've recently returned back to work after maternity leave. The team I was in did not value me, and listening to the podcast has helped me to learn my value, advocate for myself and set boundaries that are working for me and my child. I've now been offered a new remote role in a new organisation. And I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you because, number one, in as much as you thank the podcast, I'm really proud of you for knowing your worth. And I mentioned about remote roles, they're there. They are there. And even the hybrid roles, you can still negotiate. I'm sorry, going into the office 3 days a week is not hybrid as far as I'm concerned, especially when you're not paying me the transport costs. Hybrid to me is 1 or 2 days at best a week. But for me, if I'm hybrid, it's once a week at best. And that's purely for my mental health, honey. And so I can still remember how to use the train system. That's about it. Once a month, now that is giving me hybrid vibes. But I'm really happy for you. I definitely think there's a podcast in the works. There's one that I've done already, but there's another one in the works about returning to work after maternity and what that looks like. We've got the maternity masterclass, and I tell you like how to manage your maternity. I discuss the legalities of your maternity, where to find certain information, how to apply for certain things. But there's a practical when you go back that I want to talk about as well. Obviously, my perspective is going to be as a contractor, but I will cover as a perm as well, because there needs to be that information that's actually disseminated as well. But also, even from a confidence perspective, I've been doing this for years. Like, I've been a commercial contract manager for a long time, and going back to work is a lot, because now it's like there's a whole new normal, and my routine includes a baby. Like, how were people doing it pre-pandemic? I genuinely don't know. But now for me, it's like any project I take, any contract I take has to work around me being a mum. And I have to be able to drop everything if I have to go to the nursery and collect my daughter, especially like this week where she's been ill. Like, it's like a dress rehearsal for when I do go back to work and stuff. So I think there's that conversation to be had. And for me, I can sit here and tell you already, when I go back to work, I won't be telling anyone I've had a baby. Just tell people I took a break, because I did take a break. I just took a maternity break. I don't need to quantify what that break is. But again, we can get into that in another episode, but I'm very proud of you. Congratulations on your new role, and congratulations on motherhood. I have recorded some TikToks that will be going up on my TikTok. If you want to follow me on TikTok, my handle is Toya Washington. If you want to follow me on Snapchat, my handle is Toya Washington. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is Toya_Washington. And of course, the Toya Talks podcast Instagram page is Toya_Talks. I'm also on Threads, Toya_Washington. And yes, I will be more present on TikTok, because I know how many of you have asked for some TikTok videos, and literally it's just been me focusing on my maternity and my motherhood and just trying to find balance. My daughter now is in nursery twice a week, so it frees me up to do some other things, and one of which is TikTok as well. So I've recorded, I just need to edit and upload, and to record podcasts and stuff. So I'm really utilizing my time to do all the things I love. And one of the things I love is the podcast. You guys really are my why. When you tell me the positive stories, like they say positive news stories that have come out of the podcast, those are the things that motivate me to keep recording, keep sharing, keep learning, keep sharing, keep learning, keep sharing. And I know that I'm in your group chats. I know that you guys are talking about topics. I know some of you are and ahhing about whether to send in a work-related or life-related dilemma. Your anonymity will always be protected. So email hello@toytalks.com. In the subject box, just say it's a dilemma, and maybe think of a witty subject line. Or if you just want to say a dilemma, that's also fine. We have a new episode that comes out bi-weekly. If there is something that happens and I need to put out an episode on my off week, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. The run up to the end of the year, I am consistent, I'm present, and I'm here. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for all your love, all your support and your encouragement. Make sure you follow me on my social media handles. Make sure you share this podcast and previous episodes. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toya Talks podcast.